Okay, good evening and welcome to the South County Fire Board of Commissioners regular board meeting for January 20th, 2026. I'll go ahead and call us to order. Ask everybody to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have your mouth full,
Next up is approval of the agenda, and commissioners, we have a request from the chief for an additional executive session. That would be item 13B for potential litigation. And Ms. Blankenship, I don't have the RCW site, unfortunately, offhand ready for that, but if you could include that in the meeting minutes, potential litigation, item 13B added to the agenda. Otherwise, Chief, I believe our agenda is sufficient. Is there anything else for the agenda, board members? If not, I will move adoption of the agenda as amended with the executive session 13B. Is there a second?
I'm second.
Second by Commissioner Fernhoff. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us forward in the agenda then to item 4, which is the consent agenda, starting with 4A, which is the December 31, 2025 claims vouchers totaling $1,303,529.53, and the January 2026 claims vouchers totaling $1,158,579.32. I will move adoption of the consent agenda items. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Chan. So moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda items. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That moves us forward in the agenda then to item number 5, which is approval of the meeting minutes. This evening we have the January 6, 2026 regular meeting minutes. I'll move the adoption of the January 6, 2026 regular meeting minutes. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Wittes. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the January 6, 2026 regular meeting minutes. Is there discussion on the motion? Is there discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. That moves us forward in the agenda then to item number 6, which is public comment. We'll start first in the room and then go to our Zoom platform. And I've got 2 individuals signed up for public comment tonight. And our first is Barb Heidel. Go ahead and please come forward up to our microphone. And Chief Sherman, if you'll make sure that is turned on. So let's activate it. Good evening. Please state your name for the record and then go ahead with your statement.
Thank you, Barb Heidel from Mill Creek.
Good
I
evening.
wish to thank whoever was responsible for choosing our fire marshal for Mill Creek. He answers my questions best as possible and very amicably. He is helping on me at different times to understand what fire marshals do, how they figure out the cause of fire, which can be very tedious and intensive work. Though I do notice that he is not part of the discussions between our city and the South County fire people who come to Mill Creek for meetings. I don't understand why he's not a part of those discussions, but I suppose that happens at all the cities South County Fire represents. I do appreciate his presence in our city. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Second person for in-person public comment is Penny Coyne. Ms. Coyne, please come forward to the microphone. And Ms. Coyne, if you could state your name for the record and then your public comment. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. My name is Penny Coyne. I am a member of the general public and I'm also a benefactor for South County Fire. And I'm coming to you tonight to reflect on the amazing career of our Fire Chief, Bob Eastman. I know you're going to be recognizing him later in the meeting, but from the public standpoint, since I'm usually at your meetings and one of the only public people who come along, I want to say that 99.9% of the public out there, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your leadership, your insight, your transparency, your guidance. You have given me a lot personally when I had questions about things that were important to me. I set up a meeting with you that I asked for 20 minutes. You gave me an hour. And in your day, and I know your day is full, I appreciate that. And I also want you to know that you have groomed and selected an amazing chief, incoming chief, in Sean Maxwell. So thank you for that. This is starting my 5th year as part of South County's Fires family. And I can't thank you enough for all of the things that you've given me. I hope to be able to give back more to you as the time goes on. I also want to say, in the other 90 seconds I have, last week, there was an epiphany in this room. Commissioner Lawrence and I had a very brief discussion about a citizens committee possibly being formed to talk about the upcoming bond measure that you're considering for the election in November. And we had a pretty good conversation about that. And I sat there as the meeting went on, and all of a sudden, Bob Eastman did a 2025 in review. It was brilliant. It was concise. It was well thought out. It was ad-libbed, and having worked in radio for 47 years on the air, I know a good ad-lib when I hear one. Bob did something miraculous. He did something that I hadn't heard in the 4 years previous to all of the meetings that I've attended, and I've attended them all. And if I were going to give you any advice for promoting South County Fire, talking about the bond issue, and asking the voters who are in the RFA to vote yes on that bond, I would take that speech in its entirety and I would put it on every social media page that you can find. I'd find a way to get it to every council meeting, to every PTA meeting, to every nursing home, to every HOA, and play that in its entirety, because that was the best sales job I have ever heard. So thank you, Bob, for that. And I hope, Sean, that continues where you all are tooting your own horns, because it's way too few and far between that you all say things about the amazing work that you do and the amazing service that you provide. And that's what the voters want. They want to know that you're doing something, that you're not just sitting here on your hands while the line crew are out there fighting fires. So thank you for that. Bob, you are one of a kind, and I'm going to miss you. But thank you so much for your service. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Coyne. Ms. Blankenship, that was who I had signed up for the in-person comment, public comment. Can I have you look on our Zoom platform and ask you if there's any request for public comment on our Zoom platform?
There is no one online.
No. Okay, very good. I'll come back one last time then in the room. Any request for public comment here in the room one last time? Not seeing any request for public comment. Thank you. We will move forward in the agenda then to item number 7, which is the fire chief's report. Good evening, Chief Eastman.
Hi, good evening, Chair Kenny, Vice Chair Farinoff, rest of the board, public, Penny. Thank you for those kind words. This will be my last chief's report as a fire chief. Been a long time. We don't have a whole lot in the chief's report. Unfortunately, we had a fatality fire yesterday. Chief Chalfont's going to give you a brief overview on that. And then I'll give you a brief legislative update. So with that, John, go ahead.
Good evening, Chair Kenny, board, staff, and guests. As indicated on the slide in front of you here, we did have an incident last night. The initial dispatch came in just after 8:30 p.m. Initial reports indicated there was a potential victim trapped in the fire unit. As crews arrived, they found a significantly challenging incident scene that was kind of clouded up with large quantities of accumulated personal belongings and undisposed of refuse. Initial on-scene reports did also state that they had a fast-moving fire, both interior and exterior. Conditions to include a floor 2 and attic fire on this duplex structure. Engine 18 was our first crew on scene with Captain Stiefel, engine operator Adam, and firefighter Petrenko. And they worked hard to provide solid information and some initial actions to all responding units. So they set a really solid foundation for the entire operation on the onset. As I mentioned, they were slowed and challenged in attempts to access due to this heavy accumulation of personal belongings, both inside and outside the structure. And even to the point where when they did make some interior access, they were forced into positions so that where they were trying to breach room to room. So for instance, from a bathroom area into a neighboring bedroom. And as they would make that wall breach, still found high piles of accumulated personal belongings that made it very difficult. Ultimately, as Chief mentioned, did result in a fatality. The victim was located partially covered in debris, so it did take a little bit of time to locate that person. So crews did an amazing job in my conversations with the incident commander from last night. So thank you to them for their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Now I've kind of lost track of time. So if I haven't told the board this, I will apologize ahead of time. We did get a Senate companion bill for the House bill we submitted last year with regards to fire code official work at Senate Bill 6064. We were notified, Chief, was it Thursday or Friday?
Friday.
So we got notified that we were the Senate bill was slated for hearing in local government yesterday. So Chief Chalfant and I went down and testified with our lobbyist, David Foster. And let me back up a little bit. Senator Lovick is the primary sponsor to the companion bill. And Senator Marco Elias was the second signature on it. And so the opposition was very similar to the opposition in our House bill. A lot of the same people were there in opposition of the Senate bill. Myself, David, and Mr. Foster were able to testify. We got our full 2.5, 3 minutes. There were no questions to the folks that spoke before us. And we had 2, 3, or 4 questions that were asked of us, which gave us about another 2.5 to 3 minutes of conversation with the senator representatives in the local government committee. I'm not sure where the bill goes from here. I will say that having Mr. Foster help coach us, the work we did, getting to know the representatives that represent us within the RFA. Sometimes you don't always know if that work pays off. I'm here to tell you it's paying off. The representatives that we touch and we had an impromptu meeting with Sam Lowe, a representative. As you know, he's also on the county council. So the work we're doing is paying off. I don't think Chief Sherman or I thought we'd have a companion bill. We thought we had a good chance of getting one, but we weren't sure. And I don't think either one of us thought we were necessarily going to get a hearing on it. So I think we're further ahead than I think we anticipated being this time. It is a short session. There's a lot of things happening quickly. Again, that's where we are. I'll know more. There's some follow-up meetings, hopefully. I'm not sure when. Mr. Foster is working some of that on our behalf. I do know there's several of us going down to Ledge Day, the state chiefs and the commissioners joint Ledge Day on the 29th. There will be some meetings where myself, and Chief Sherman will probably be peeling off from our contingent. We have a large contingent going down. I think we have 5 chiefs and 4 commissioners. David and I will probably be peeling off and spending some time with some very specific legislators if we have the opportunity and can get in to meet with them, particularly based on the conversation that we started with them and continue to go. So I'm looking forward to next week and what's going on at Ledge. And so that's something. I'll take any questions. I don't know if I can answer a lot more in detail, but we'll keep tabs. And if it comes out of committee, you'll hear from me immediately. And I'll do the same if it doesn't make it out of committee. I just won't be as excited about it.
Commissioner Fernhoff.
Thank you, Chief, for the report. Chief Chalfant, really extend from the board our best wishes to everybody involved in that incident. It's not easy to go fight a fire and then have a fatality on top of that. Can be very impacting, but bravo Zulu to everybody that was there. Chief Eastman, just echoing Penny Coyne's sentiments, we're definitely going to miss your brevity. In terms of next week in Olympia, since I'm one of the folks that will be going down, since you've had this unforecasted event that happened on Monday, how will this change some of the dialogue and some of the expectations from the folks that will be joining you?
I don't know if it's going to change a lot, Commissioner Faranoff. I think the event is a joint event between the commissioners and the chiefs. They have some key bills that they want us as a group to go talk about. We are going as a group. So our Snohomish Regional District 4, there'll be several of us just because we're limited time frame for some of us that share legislators. So we'll be going together, and we usually get about 10 minutes. So it'll be very, very fast. There will be hopefully some opportunity for us to have a little bit more in-depth conversations, hopefully with a couple of senators that from the local government committee as they continue to discuss our legislation and hopefully we get them at least pushed a little bit where they're considering taking it out of committee, moving to the next step. And that's kind of up in the air of what we will do. And there'll be some of us that will peel off and go do that. But as far as what does it change what we're going to do? Not a whole lot. It may add a subsequent meeting that we go down to Olympia and work our issues. I think as we continue where we want to go legislatively as an organization, I see us going down and participating with the state commissioners and the state chiefs. And then I see us going down as South County Fire, talking with our legislators as South County Fire, right? Because you don't get much time and there's things that they want that are good for fire service in general. And I think I see us picking a day in the future that we go down and pick who we want to talk to, pick the people we need to talk to, and go talk about South County specific. Not always because we're asking for something either. Part of it's to go down and we've been very clear when we talk to the legislators we've talked to through the summer is we're a resource for them too. And if there's anything we can do to help them, or if they've got questions that they think has a public safety to ask us. I mean, we are the fire department. For some of them, we're the largest fire department that deals with some of the same issues that they're working with. And then some of the issues that you may not think, right? There's a lot of focus on affordable housing and making sure there's enough housing for people in general. And the legislature's grappling with how to do that. And there's a lot of competing influences on that. And I'll use this as an example. There's a Representative Dewar had a bill last session that talked about having elevators in buildings that are up to 6 stories that don't require an elevator, but they're not a big enough elevator to house a gurney, right? And the fire service can be very pragmatic at times. And the fire marshal world wants to make sure if you have an elevator in a building, it can hold a gurney. In our conversations with Representative Deward, as the fire chief of this organization, we have competing challenges. I understand that we want gurneys, the ability to put a gurney in a rig to take sick people down. The other challenge that we have, and our organization has actually taken steps and put dollars and cents to it with our community resource paramedic program, is we have a huge unsheltered population challenge in our region. And so we have put dollars and resources, created a division to deal with that because there's not enough shelter and housing for folks. And so from the fire chief's perspective, you weigh that, right? So if this building can be built without an elevator, I have to deal with stairs. So I have to do that right now because they can build it that way today. If we put an elevator that doesn't hold a gurney, so people that have disabilities can get to a different floor to get housed, there's a competing interest there. And from the fire chief's perspective, you know, I'm okay with having an elevator that doesn't have the ability to put a gurney in it, if with the goal of getting unsheltered sheltered in a building that right now they can build with no elevator at all, right? And so it's kind of those other issues that are going on in Olympia that maybe on their surface don't directly impact South County Fire and the emergency response we do, but it really does, right? And so we're building, the relationships. So when legislators get those issues, right, they can bring those and we can talk through and give them at least where we sit on some of those, which may be different than the fire service as a whole or subgroups within the fire service. So that's an example of some of the stuff that's happening that may not be on our radar. We wouldn't necessarily see that, but things that we actually can weigh in on and help support our legislators trying to solve problems that will actually benefit the RFA and the citizens we serve. So as an example of some of the other things that are happening with our legislative process, and I see that continuing. And we're laying the foundation, the relationship to continue those conversations moving forward. I'm proud of that, but there's work and the time associated with that, and I understand that too.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chan.
So, Chief, are you going to go to radio as Penny suggests?
Nope.
No, but I don't know. A friend told me that I got a radio face, so maybe you have that too. But I just want to really appreciate you. I think when I first met you, you were 20 years old or something like that.
Oh, no, I came a little bit later in life, just so you
Right,
know. I was
but
here in 96.
I can't believe that you're retired now, and I appreciate all the work you did. Actually, I asking for statistics, something, and on the benefit chart, on the strip it on the napkin, and you make it really far more official. I think that is convincing a lot of people to see that. But I hope you still, as an individual, to kind of like helping us if there's some issues.
I'm not falling off the face of the earth, Commissioner Chan. I'm around, and South County is a special place for me, and it always will be. And I'm always a phone call away.
Okay, so I listened to Garrison Keeler,
Yeah, love that.
and he said that there's a Lake Oregon in Minnesota, right? So you're gonna have that?
I'm not going to be too far from there, just for the record.
Is that right? Okay, but anyway, good luck to you and your family, and appreciate everything you have done here.
Sorry, Commissioner Winkelmann.
Chief, again, I want to express my appreciation for everything you're doing. A couple of things that you just said about legislation really resonated with me, especially when talking about some of the topics, affordable housing, elevators. As most know, I have spent a lot of time researching that. And I'm hoping that the South County Fire can get more involved with those conversations because I don't think the public fully understands the impact that programs like our CRP program is having and the critical conversation that is required, especially in affordable housing, in the conversation of how to help the transient populations and those different vulnerable populations. And so please continue to have that conversation. Chief Maxwell, I'm asking the same because this is a critical topic for our community that is a big challenge. And to be honest with you, through all of my research with all of my resources, the one that's best prepared to handle it, in my personal opinion, is the CRP program.
Thanks. And just to let you know, we have Mr. Foster watching that legislation for us, and will weigh in as appropriate through this session, depending on how it's coming up. So we're watching that one. It is, just so you know, it is on our radar, and we'll react as needed through this short session.
Thank you. And please keep me up to date on that.
Any questions for the chief on the chief's report, or any other questions? No? Great. Thank you, Chief. All right, that moves us forward on the agenda to item number 8, which is our union report. And I believe we have Justin Pickens with us tonight. Good evening. Come on up to the microphone. Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. I don't have too much to report, but just wanted to come and, well, actually, I was going to touch on the legislative stuff. We have our day coming up a couple days ahead of you guys. And so I know Connor and Revis and a couple I'm not going down, but a couple of them are. So maybe we can get those guys tied in with you beforehand just to kind of get up to speed on that bill. So, and just wanted to thank you, commissioners, for the unanimous approval of our new CBA. I think that obviously it was pretty overwhelmingly supported by our group. And so we thank you guys for supporting as well. So we feel like a fair agreement. Thank you to you guys, the negotiations team, administration, for all the work and hours that we've spent together over the last several months. So thank you for that. And then Chief, congratulations. Thank you for all the work that you've done primarily within our local for the many years that you spent there and as the chief. So congratulations on your retirement, Chief Maxwell. Look forward to continuing to work with you and having a familiar face that we have a relationship with. So thanks to both of you guys. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Any questions from the board members? Great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, that moves us forward on the agenda to item number 9, which is unfinished business. And we're going to start with the WHA Insurance 2026 issue, which we talked about last week. And I believe we have Winslow Cervantes with us this evening. Good evening again.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, leadership, guests. So we have an immense update from last week. I do want to just thank you guys again and your staff for all the work they've put into supporting our effort in the transition. I can assure you all in this room that this kind of late in the game, if you will, transition with the renewals will not occur in the future unless you guys go through another broker transition. But yeah, these things will usually be coming out within that 60-day period, ideally that 60 to 30-day period. But just know you'll never expect a renewal this late, if you will. But mostly due to the carriers and their protocols. We like to start that effort in 60 days, but some of the constraints and changes they had, especially with your primary policy at Gladfelters, resulted in some of the delays. So I want to thank you guys for your patience. What you have in front of you is a updated version of your renewal update report. And then you guys have an insurance proposal, or in this case, it does not have its full content, which is all your policies. Right now, you only have 3 policies up there at your hands, but that is wrapped in your guys' report. And that's just for ease when I go through this. So the primary, actually, let's start by opening up to page 1 of the report. So your guys' premiums for your underlying or primary policy with VFIS, property casualty, have gone up a little, let's say 20%. We learned on Friday afternoon, which was actually Eastern afternoon, but we learned that what the rates were. We worked on validating the accuracy of those rates and everything that was quoted in there. And we also learned in that meeting and discussion with VFIS as underwriters that apparently there was a notice put out through your previous broker that was supposed to be communicated to your district and leadership back in November. And in that notice, there was a communication that stated this was what the district's projected renewal premium was going to be. You'll see on page 2 what that projected premium. Actually, I don't think I included it here. It was sitting at around $258,000. And that was just a projection. And keep in mind, that projection was based on loss ratio and market conditions. There's a little bit more further in page 2 under the change summary on paragraph, paragraph 2 under auto increase at 41%, that details some of the loss ratios for the district. I just want you to know from our standpoint as the district's new broker and consultant, that's what we're going to be looking at and focusing on from a strategic standpoint when we talk about risk management and risk mitigation and loss control. And that's going to be one of our first strategies is getting that auto premium into a very competitive amount. And then additionally, the property increase as a note went up because during our due diligence in the remarketing effort or re-underwriting effort that we went through in the last 6 months, using our algorithms and the help of Deputy Chief Curtis, we learned that your guys' personal property and values were very low. In fact, they were about 50% of where we thought they should be based on our industry standards and a cost per square footage calculation that we use for fire departments, specifically in fire stations. And I validated this with DC Curtis, and that was very alarming to learn that during the marketing process. And that is the main contributor for your guys' property coverage increase on the premium there. We can bring those down if you guys want to look at that option. But keep in mind, as long as you're meeting that co-insurance clause, we will be okay with coverage because the carrier will meet that other 20%. But we just want to be mindful of those things when we reevaluate that, if that is a concern. The other line items are general liability, management liability, excess liability, portable equipment, and crime. Not a lot of changes there. Portable equipment did see a increase of about $708 in premium, but that was mostly just exposure driven around the values of the underlying blanket and some of the values of portable equipment. The rest of it was very stable and as it should be in the liability market. With that in mind, though, I do know we're still going to watch management liability just because of how challenging it is in the claims arena and with lawsuits. And that's something we're going to be just being mindful of with our risk management approach moving into this next year and beyond. Do you guys have any questions on that, which is the primary renewal?
Commissioner Fernhoff.
I just want to be clear, your paragraph 2, page 2 that you're referencing, is this loss, physical damage? Is this because of the claims that we have had in the last 12 months?
In the last 12 months?
Or give me the time period. Why does this go up?
I would say it's a story that's been building for 5 years. So keep in mind for property and liability, claims history that impacts your premiums today only go back 5 years. After the 5th year, it drops off. It doesn't affect your premiums moving forward. And those things can result in decreases based on the next 5 years. But yes, that is due to the last year specifically, but also the buildup of the last 5.
So I know at least with my personal insurance, if I'm at fault, there's somebody who stands there and says you're at fault, your premium goes up, or they may say, well, it's a non-fault accident. Somehow my premium goes up. In this case, how does this work? Do you have a differentiation between fault, no fault, or is it just purely damage and a replacement? Or how does that work in your world?
Yeah, so that is dependent on the carrier as well. Keep in mind there's proprietary data on the algorithms they use to calculate your exposure as an organization and your loss ratio as an organization. Keep in mind, everyone has an exposure, if you will, the metrics that make up the operational exposures of that entity that they're calculating premium off. And then you have what you have an impact on a day-to-day basis, which is your claims. Those two things come together with what the carrier needs to make money on. And those are what's used to calculate your premiums. Now, it's not just simple as A plus B plus C equals the premium, but in a nutshell, what you need to be mindful of is that yes, that does impact how those impact your premium, your loss ratio here, but we got to think about dollars in, dollars out, right? You pay, let's say last year, $548,000 to some change in insurance coverage, and what they paid out was over that, right? So for every dollar that you paid, they paid out $1.16, okay? And that's just something that they use to calculate. Now, when we exceed that 100%, that's when things get a little bit dramatic from an impact to the premium standpoint. But I will say, in the grand scheme of things, with referencing to other loss ratios that we've seen in the fire service, your guys is high, and it will come down with our efforts in conjunction with your leadership. But it is not as high as it could be. And that's a good thing to keep in mind, but still something we need to be mindful of as we launch into some strategies to reduce that in the next year, especially, and then beyond.
Chief, a question for you. Let's just give you two examples, real world. We have a distracted driver who runs into the back of the fire engine or the ladder truck. Do we actually claim that if it's a minor damage to the vehicle, or do we do a internal repair and we don't approach claims? And the same condition would be if we have a unit that's backing into a fire station and, whoops, the door is down. Do we fix that? Do we claim it? How do we navigate those waters when they occur?
So they look at the cost associated with it, our deductible, and then they make a decision on whether they run it
this
through
way or
or
that
we
way.
just pay, right?
Okay.
So I don't normally get involved in that. It's usually, I would say it's at Chief Curtis's level. And I think other folks that work with that, Chief Hudson, I think Shane Jensen used to be part of that back in the day. If they get to where they're not sure, they'll run it up to one of the assistant chiefs. But they look into it kind of similar to what you would do. If you backed into something in your car or somebody, right? And you're in a spot where your deductible's X, the cost to fix it's Y, and you make a decision, is this worth reporting through the plan or not?
Okay.
And we use some of that same rationale. So that's how we do it.
Keeps our costs down and.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
forth.
In other words, if I think we were $5,000 deductible, it depends, right? And if it was $6,000, my guess is they would fix it and not run it through insurance for right. I mean, they're and we do that with conjunction with the shop and know and be smart that way and not claim things with insurance that doesn't get us where we need to go and impacts loss ratios and those kind of things. So they look at all that and then make a informed decision and move forward.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Lawrence, then Commissioner Chan. Commissioner Lawrence.
Yes, $500,000 for accidents, property damage only? We're not talking any kind of liability or lawsuits?
With the $500,000, where is that?
You said $500,000 is what we paid, and the insurance company had to pay out more than that. Isn't that what I heard?
Oh, excuse me. I was just using an example. So for your auto liability and APD, which is auto physical.
What's going up 285? How much is our insurance policy for property damage going up?
So are you talking about property coverage?
Well, you mentioned
a whole?
$285,000, or what was that?
So if you look on page 1, and I apologize, I was speaking in general example sense, but if you look at what your individual coverages are, property, crime, portable equipment, excess, liability, general liability, and management liability, those line item coverages are listed in that table on page 1. I was just using it as an example as a whole. But auto specifically was at $196,943 last year. Okay. And I don't have all the historical records on those premiums long-term. That's going to be part of our analysis post-renewal to look at those trends and then tie them to loss history. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. Your renewal went up for auto coverage specifically, which keep in mind is liability and auto physical damage, went up to $278,453, which is about an $81,000, 510. So, yeah, and I apologize. I was speaking in a general sense. But yes, with auto specifically, in that example let's see, on that second paragraph, for auto physical damage, for every dollar you spent on insurance, your insurance coverage, the carrier spent $1.16 paying out claims, if that makes sense. And that's how loss ratio is calculated. And then for liability specifically, we're at 106%. So again, for every dollar you spent on auto liability, the carrier paid out $1.06.
Mhm.
So
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Chan.
Good evening. Thank you for coming to explain that. Now, the only items reduced is management liability. Actually, there's a math in there. It should be $1,015 less. It's not $15. So management liability, is that error and omissions in the commercial and what I think Commissioner Kenny and I in particular want that make sure that the board is being protected.
Mhm.
I know they were different from the regular business. So, and then also, I think including in management, right, in here, can you expand a little bit more?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the management liability, or what we call in Main Street commercial insurance, EPLI, or
Right.
employment practice liability insurance, is an all-encompassing multiple coverage piece. It includes D&O, directors and officers coverage for your board and your
Right.
leadership. It includes public officials coverage. In VFIS specifically, it also has cyber liability coverage.
Okay.
Which is a little unique in the market, but that's where they dovetail the cyber coverage into. It also covers E&O, public medical coverage for your guys' medical exposures with the patients you guys see.
Right.
And there's a few other, actually, there's a dozen more sub coverages within that. But yes, that policy has been specifically designed with VFIS for the fire service, and all that you would see from an exposure standpoint and a need standpoint for commercial insurance for that type of liability. And it really is all encompassing. And that's the way it's been designed, not only for full coverage, but also the efficiency of the coverage, which I could spend literally 3 hours talking about. So I will not belabor that. But yes, it's a very unique coverage made specifically for your operations and all your operational exposures.
Can you what the coverage, what dollar amount is for commissioner or anyone else? I think we have a big discussion before. What is the current, what is the exposure up to? What was the coverage up to?
Oh, your management liability limits?
Yeah.
I apologize, I do not have, let's see. So if you looked at this renewal quote right here, which is the VFIS, the VFIS document, and you go to page, forgive me, they've reorged this document specifically. Page 21.
Okay.
And so you have a $1 million occurrence and a $3 million aggregate limit. And then there's other sublimits in there as well. But that is the one we primarily look at when we're talking about that coverage.
Do you think that's enough? Because as we're expanding our exposures from all, we have one more city to go into and all that stuff. Is that going to be, based on your professional opinion with our organization like this and everything else? Or you need to take time to study a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, so In a general sense, I would say it's very adequate. Keep in mind your excess liability also comes down and supports those limits, right? Or provides additional coverage for those limits. And you guys have very generous excess liability limits in your primary policy of VFIS. In addition to layer 1 and layer 2 of excess liability. Now, those layers don't cover all instances of claim types, but a majority of your coverage items are covered within those layers. Now, with those layers on top of that, I would say you're very comfortably covered for most of your exposures and most of your needs from the standpoint of what ifs, right? And I do have an update for you, Chair Kenny, on the excess liability market, what we have for you.
So if you refresh my memory, how many percentage of your clients are fire service?
Our fire service. Oh, I don't have a percentage. I apologize. So we work with a little over, I think as of the end of last year, a little over 500 public entities nationwide, predominantly in the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and then some in Nevada and Utah. And then we work with public entity focused nonprofit associations around the country. But specifically fire districts, we support and broker and consult, I believe, 263 fire districts and departments.
Okay.
So,
So
and-
the reason I'm asking for that, so you're familiar with fire service and
Oh.
if anything there, if someone's doing something different, you can, inform us, maybe we'll need more coverage and that type of thing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions before I proceed to the ancillary policies?
No, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I do apologize. When I finish this report, and I thank you for your value correction on management liability line item for the premium change and the percentage change. Moving over to page two, excuse me, the numbering is a little wonky in that report. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you move over to page 4, on the ancillary policy section, this report was just finished up last night. We did have the rest of our renewal coverages and quotes come in as of this morning, so I could not update this. But to start out for your excess liability policies, which keep in mind you have 2, and they're layer 1 and layer 2 that stand over your primary underlying. Both those layers did increase in premium. And keep in mind, this is directly attributed to the liability loss ratio of your underlying primary policy of VFIS, or your loss ratio with VFIS. So that those coverages did go up. The layer 1 did go up modestly. I would say that's probably driven by mostly market conditions with excess liability. Layer 2 did go up significantly, and as of this morning, forgive me, let me get my number out. Your expiring premium was at $750. Your renewal quote has come in at $84,458.88, and that is a little over a $15,500 increase, or roughly 18.6%. And again, that's mostly driven because of the auto liability exposure there on layer 2. Layer 1 did not see that much of an impact, and it has to do with the carrier that took that. Carrier 2 is a little more reserved when it comes to those kinds of liability exposures, especially in today's market with auto being expensive for both commercial and private. But again, we can't place that coverage with the same carrier, unfortunately, and carriers do have different appetites from carrier to carrier. Do you guys have any questions on that before I move on? Okay, skip.
Yes, Commissioner Fernhoff.
Not since our Nisqually earthquake in February of 2001 have we had a major incident here, but yet it looks like there's a 23% increase in earthquake coverage. Why is that?
So that has to do with the personal property value increase on your underlying policy. You have more to insure, so more to insure, if that makes sense.
All right, thanks.
Yep, absolutely.
Mr. Cervantes, I did have a question for you about the excess liability, but I wanted to come back first to, I'm not sure the right term, but the primary liability umbrella coverage.
Yep.
And I see that at page 43 of this document. And I just want to confirm from that page that the excess liability, calling it the primary excess liability insurance
Mhm.
for VFIS is $10 million, each occurrence, $20 million aggregate. So that's what I'm calling our initial or primary umbrella.
Correct.
And then we move on to the two excess layers, layer 1 and layer 2 that you just talked about.
Correct.
Each of those are 5 million apiece.
Mhm.
So on one occurrence, if we have the two excess layers, we would have 10 million on the primary, 5 additional million on the excess layer 1, and another 5 million on the excess layer 2, for a total of 20 million as our per occurrence excess liability coverage.
Absolutely. That is correct.
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, Chief, that's the same as last year.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Mr. Cervantes, did you give any look to the cost of more liability insurance?
Absolutely.
Like another 5 million beyond that?
Absolutely. And we're actually looking at a different limit makeup as well, not just 5, but if there's a different structure to that. Depends on the carrier, what those increments are. But we are literally exhausting the entire domestic market for your guys' exposure type and appetite for these additional coverages. So not only additional layers at those quantities or tiers, but larger tiers as well. We also are going to propose, after we do our due diligence with the leadership, look at some risk pooling opportunities. I don't know if you guys are familiar with risk pooling. I know, are you considered a commissioner? Liaison. I know he comes from a city department. That's where most of the risk pools are bunched up with most municipalities and then some special districts. But there are very unique risk pools where we could tap into very, very high limits of excess liability. They do have various types of hoop jumping we have to do to get into them. We work with all of them because, as you can imagine, a municipality has very, very large needs and appetite for those kinds of coverages, especially the self-insureds. But these risk pools are in the arena of self-insured, which provides us some very extensive excess liability quantities and amounts. And we will have a report for that on February 3rd. I'm just working with their executive director right now on some due diligence opportunities, if you will. And I'll have more to report on that. But in addition to the exhausting of the market we have in place for just the for-profit market, we're going to look at that risk pool opportunity as well.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
And I will tell you, beyond that, we're going to have to be knocking on the door of the Lloyds in London, which we can do if we need to. But I do want you to know we have that bandwidth and capability if we need to go there.
Great. Thank you.
And then, so moving on to earthquake specifically, yes, we did see an increase. That was legitimately due to, mostly to the personal property value insurance increases. And keep in mind, that was about 50% underinsured. I think we were looking at a TIV, which stands for total insured value of about $4.5 million. But really, we needed to look at about a $10 to an $11 million total insured value. General liability, that policy does not renew until May. So unfortunately, we cannot get quotes that early, no matter how hard I shake the tree of underwriters. But we will be keeping you guys apprised of how that renewal comes in. I will say, based on how your general liability policy renewed, this is general liability for your guys' 2 rental properties. I don't see that going up at all or increasing very much, if at all. Accident sickness policy, that's probably going to renew as is. If there is any increase, it has to do with an exposure increase or decrease, which is just how many members are using the plan or on the plan. Group life, also renewing as is, but that renewal is coming, I believe, next year. And then our marine policies are the only things outstanding that are currently in effect or effective with the district. And those are probably going to come in around the same price point. You guys have had no claims, no exposure changes. It will just probably be a moderate market condition increase. And then lastly, because it was a request of the board, and I know leadership months ago, we are exploring all of the additional cyber market capabilities out there outside of your primary VFIS Gladfelter's primary policy or underlying policy. keep in mind that cyber coverage wrapped in your management liability is, in our opinion, from a best practice standpoint, not what districts should be having. They're just a generous offer of a modest, generous offer of coverages that are part of that package. But we would always advocate for additional limits and additional coverage or less exclusionary types. So what kind of occurrences can occur and how we cover them. So we're going to look for a very robust cyber coverage that will dovetail into your primary, expanding those limits and expanding the coverage type for any kind of incident or claim. Right now, we have one quote that came in from a Gladfelters program. I do like those coverages, but I would like to see some other carriers come in with a more competitive option, not only on price, but coverage breadth. And currently right now at a $1 million limit for cyber, we're about $12,081.63. If we're looking at an additional million for a $2 million limit, that is at $20,197.09. We're hoping to find something a little more competitive at the $2 million mark. But again, that's going to depend on your guys' risk appetite and what you are willing to look at for those upper limits. But I will advise, just in today's world, how tech is changing, how vulnerable our softwares are, how vulnerable our cybersecurity infrastructures are, regardless of what we do from a mitigation standpoint and a technical standpoint. We are seeing some very substantial claims in public entities, and they are broaching that $1 million mark. And we have seen some push over that $1 million mark, but that is a rare instance. So,
Commissioner Lawrence.
Yes, back to earthquakes. We have a number of buildings that actually, if they came down in an earthquake, would be doing us a favor because save us some money on the deconstruction. And plus fire too. I mean, why do we want insurance on buildings we want to have come down anyway, or we're going to take that? So we'd save some money there, right?
I cannot answer that in the way you maybe want me to answer, but from a best practice standpoint, I would always advise insuring something that you have a valued interest in, no matter how much it's actually worth. Now, there are instances, like specifically with things you may not own or have an insured interest in, you don't want to insure for, unless there's some contractual agreement with some kind of agreement you have the city, right? You need to cover their buildings. But yes, in that sense, I guess you could not cover it, but I would advise against that with every bone in my insurance body, just because of all the implications of that from the legal standpoint.
And the other piece of that, Commissioner Lawrence, is as we move forward and we know in the best of circumstances, as we move forward with our capital facility planning, there's always delays. And with the buildings we do have, even in different stages of life, we did work I knew last year when we did this, they were probably undervalued to replace them. And the goal for us is if we do have an earthquake, because if we lose, here's the actual reason why. If we lose fire stations as a result of the earthquake, we're also going to lose houses, and we're predominantly property tax based, right? And so the challenge you see is if we do have an earthquake, it's multifaceted for us. We lose the fire station. We have to rebuild the fire station to operate out of it. But if we're losing the fire station, we're also losing improved properties as a result of the earthquake, which then will reduce our revenue, but we're still expected to provide the same service level. So that's why one is we're not sure when they're going to get replaced because there's delays that we don't foresee. And until we get down that road, we want to make sure we insure them appropriately so they can be replaced if something like that catastrophic were to happen, so we can stay in the fight.
So we have Commissioner Fernhoff, then Commissioner Rowland. Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yes, sir. You talked about the cyber coverage and was some pretty broad strokes there. So areas of concern. It's kind of like the horses leave the barn when you've sustained a cyber attack. You've lost data. So you're not necessarily insuring us to recover data, are you? Is that part of it? And also, if you could speak to the point if we had an infrastructure damage as a result of a cyber attack, and or if we had ransomware, where we can get access to our data if we pay a fee to somebody who's trying to exploit the RFA. So those categories are this. We've sustained some sort of cyber attack within the United States, and our servers are rendered useless somehow. They've overloaded the various components in there, or they've been locked in a way that now we have to pay somebody in order to get access to that data. Specify for me, please, what does cyber mean to you? I just told you what it meant to me, but I'd like to know more specifically what we're paying for when we pay for cyber.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So you are paying for that technological exposure and all the operational things that happen within a technological exposure. That can be the tangible world from a hardware standpoint to the intangible world through your screen and all the screens in this room in that digital landscape, right? And so when you're talking about like a server attack on a large scale where you maybe perhaps your server allotment is compromised, forgive me, I can't speak from that arena or that subject matter expert standpoint, but it has to occur with something that it penetrates your system specifically. Now, I think you guys are a Microsoft user. So if something happens at Microsoft down the road, I don't think their servers are here in Seattle, but if they're somewhere overseas, right, or somewhere domestically here, that's a larger, different question and a different exposure and a different occurrence. Something specifically like one of you guys have a fraudulent email sent over to HR and payroll, and they change up a direct deposit slip, and that could be a spoofed approach. It could be actually they hacked into your specific user account and created that falsified email. But those are the kinds of things that coverage would stand into. I could spend a long time explaining all the types of cyber exposures, but we're just talking about that hard and soft digital landscape environment that we're covered for. Ransomware specifically, if by chance, and I'll just use some foreign adversaries here, we do see a lot of Russian and Iranian and Chinese ransom thieves. And when they get into those negotiations on a hostage situation of data, that is when the carrier steps up and all of the firepower they have, well, digital firepower, all the digital firepower they have and the digital the negotiation standpoint, that's all handled by them. That's not done through the district. Our role is really just to communicate as soon as we're aware of some intrusions or aware of some suspicious behavior. But that is where the carrier steps up to provide that full breadth of service and that depth of service to support your guys' needs in that exposure incident.
Commissioner Rowland, go ahead.
I guess a non-flippant question around earthquake I have is with the capital facilities plan, we have scheduled some improvements to help harden, I believe, some of the buildings when it comes to earthquake resistance. Does that factor into any calculations as far as when we go back for insurance to help lower the rates? I mean, I've seen it year over year over year. Earthquake insurance is sometimes I wonder if the scientists making the predictions are in league with some of these insurance companies, because it just drives their profits up and up, and it seems like it increases at a very large amount each year. So I'm just wondering, is there anything that we can do or that we're planning to do that is going to impact that in a positive way when it comes to insurance costs around earthquakes?
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. So when you guys did your marketing originally for this additional earthquake coverage, and this applies to any earthquake coverage, they're just analyzing what is your current exposure, right? What are the metrics that go into this building, for example? When was it built? What was the square footage? What were the materials used to construct it? Age is important here because we didn't know until I think the mid-70s that Cascadia even existed, let alone we had major earthquakes on the West Coast and along this side of the ring of fire, if you will. So after those dates, though, I think it became legislation, not in a federal sense, but in a state sense, that we needed to make sure that buildings were earthquake resistant. And that's built into all the coding that we see in all of the structures built after a certain period. So with that said, I don't know about the cahoots with geologists and insurance
Fair enough.
providers,
More of a little
but but
tongue-in-cheek comment.
but I will say when it comes to retrofitting your structures, we want to know about that, and we need to make sure the carriers know about that, because when we put an age in that building, they're doing some, general math to know, okay, that building's probably not fit to survive. And I mean survive in the sense where like most of the structure's up with what we predict that Cascadia event to be. It's going to be amazing if anything is still standing. But with that said, those things are important to keep the carrier apprised of, so they will know, oh, okay, wow, they've done a lot to improve the survivability of their structures along on their schedule, and we will make note of that and make sure the carrier knows that, whether it's the report, the finished product you guys have with the vendor you guys use to do the retros. But yes, those things do come into play. I cannot tell you the credits or what the quantity is, but I can tell you when they do their calculations, that is important from an underwriting standpoint.
One of the other things that you pointed out is a lot of these formulas for determining risk and rates are all proprietary. Are there any companies out there that are more transparent when it comes to the way that they write their policies, so that consumers or government entities like us can um, take prudent action knowing the impact of what we're doing to our rates ahead of time? Or I guess with the companies that we currently have, can we reach out to them before we decide on any particular plan that we think will impact it, and get an assessment of, if X, then rates will do Y?
And are you talking about the front end, not the reactive side? So like, let's say, hey, I hypothetically have a claim that incurs, $500,000 in loss. What would my rates do? Or are you
No,
talking about like,
more of
hey, oh, excuse me. Go ahead, Commissioner.
an example that might help. We're planning on building new fire stations. So as we do so, we determine, as we're building the fire station, what materials are we going to be doing it out of? What, earthquake protections are going to be part of it? Whatever the different variables are. Or part of our capital facilities plan, we're going to be making changes to our buildings. Is there a way ahead of those changes to ascertain the impacts of them on rates with the current carriers that we are doing business with, so as to avoid putting ourselves into a bad place, or informing a decision which may be, hey, this particular feature costs, 10% more than going without it, but over the long term, it's going to lower your rates, because we know that this will help. The difference between the two buildings would be, when it comes to insurance, be something that could be quantified. Or is it just a black box that we don't know what we're going to do until we do something and we send it to them?
Thank you, Commissioner, for that example. So yes, we can know on the front end what that exposure change is going to cost. Now, asking for the transparency of those algorithms, I unfortunately, I don't know of a carrier that does that.
But not necessarily the algorithms, but can we go to them ahead of a change and go, if this change is made to this building, what would be the impact to our rates?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
we can quote out what those changes will entail from a financial standpoint, and then make a decision based on those changes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Commissioner.
So Chief Eastman, are we ready for action on this tonight, or is there some more work that needs to be done?
So for the policies that are in front of you, I would ask for action tonight. And then the Marine will come back to you on the 3rd for approval. The additional excess liability conversation will come back to you. And is there one more?
Earthquake?
And cyber. The quotes for cyber will come forward because the cyber policy that he was talking about tonight. We have what's under VFIS. We don't have a secondary cyber policy. So that would be something for the board to consider that's new in addition. And so there's two policies set to be approved tonight. Do I understand that right? Or the suite of policies that are in the group?
The suite of policies. So your primary, and then your two layers of excess liability, your earthquake excess, and then your excuse me. Yes, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're waiting on the marine, which is going to come in around $6,000 in totality. That's the primary excess, and then the certificate for pollution. And then your cyber, I would suggest we wait. Keep in mind, we can wait for binding. It will be retro to February 1st. So for that February 3rd meeting, I can always push back on the carrier and just let them know, hey, we're going to cover prior acts to the 1st. So yes, those 4 policies.
Commissioner Furnoff.
On the marine coverage, is that loss of the vessel? Or, because that seems grossly undervalued for replacement of a fireboat.
It's just a very affordable coverage. Yes, but that is for the physical damage of the vessel, and then all the liability associated with that, and then your excess liability on top of that, and then your pollution cert.
So if I lost the vessel, how much are you going to pay out?
You're going to pay out what it's valued at, which is
It's got to be more than $6,000.
absolutely no. I think it's pushing about, with everything included, between $350,000 to $400,000. So
Especially with our electronics upgrade.
And the new
Yep.
motors.
Yeah, and the
Yep.
new motors. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
I
you.
think it's actually over $400,000 in totality, but yep, absolutely.
Commissioner Rowland, did you have another question?
Yeah, actually, I just had a comment. Commissioner Fernerhoff, you asked some questions around cyber and what it covers and what it does. And I guess what I would say from my experience, it definitely depends on the policy first. But the majority of it, when you talk about ransomware, you're not getting access to your data back most times unless you pay whatever that is. And I'm not sure, again, it would depend on the policy whether they would even want to get in the business of paying off everybody that ransomed their customers' data. There are plenty of businesses even that have cyber insurance that their data gets locked by ransomware and they go out of business. I think our biggest exposure when it comes to cyber is going to be personal data that may be stored in our systems, whether it be that of our employees or of patients, things like that, that then, we'd be sued for not keeping safe. And I think that's probably where the largest piece of it would be. But again, we'll have to see what the policies come back with. And again, those policies tend to be a bit more transparent of if you do X with your environment or submit to specific audits and pass them, that your rates drop. So that'll be good to see what comes across and what we're looking at. I look forward to it. But as for the policies that are before us tonight, I think we have a course of action, and I would move that we approve them.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions? So is a motion to approve the WHA 2026 insurance renewal proposal less the marine policies and the cyber policies, which we're waiting on?
That is correct.
And does that cover us?
No, the excess to the excess. So we've got the excess layer 1, layer 2. He's given us the dollars and cents for that. So Jim, you're right. And then we will bring back to you
Marine.
marine, cyber, and then we're going to bring back additional excess liability conversation over and above what we historically have had, which is the 10 million plus 5 plus 5.
Okay.
Right? So what you said is correct, and those other will come back. And I want to confirm with Winslow, that's it. So that's what we're asking for approval tonight. And then the 3 things we talked about. 2, the marine will be a policy that we will need to approve when we get it. And then the cyber policy will be a conversation with the board because we don't have a policy like that. So we will come with discussion, and then we can have further discussion on what we want to do, how we want to do it. And then they'll bring forward additional liability additional excess liability. And those two things will probably have more discussion prior to the board taking action based on the options that are there and those kind of pieces. Does that help lay out where we are?
It does. And
Okay.
Commissioner Rowland, I heard you make a motion. Does that encompass what you wanted in your motion?
Yes, sir.
Ah, very good. I'll second that. Suppose moved and seconded to adopt that for our insurance purposes tonight. Is there discussion on the motion? Discussion on the motion. If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Cervantes.
Thank you all. We look forward to serving the district.
Great. Thank you. All right, that moves us forward in the agenda. Item 9B, board priorities. And I sent out an email this afternoon, kind of collecting, let's see, two this way, actually. And Ms. Blankenship, do you have one for Liaison Morris? Or? Here, three. I've got an extra one here.
Yes.
So this is what the chief had put together 2 meetings ago. What had come in since our last meeting. And then I added the number at the end. I think we have a total of 21 or 22 on there. And so my proposal is that we and if commissioners or liaisons have other ideas, other things to add on there, my suggestion would be email that to Melissa by the close of business on Thursday. But otherwise, we're going to close the list on Thursday. And then Ms. Blankenship will send out an email with the list. And my suggestion is that each commissioner have 5 designations, shall we call it, and board liaison too, Morris. Each have 5 designations and designate the 5 things that you think are most important in there. Just by email, and send that back to Ms. Blankenship by Friday, the following the next week, following Friday, June 30th at noon. January, yeah, it's not June, January 30th. And let her know what your 5 designations are, and then she'll collect those and put them in the packet for the February 3 meeting. And it'll all be on one page so you can see how many designations each item got. And then from there, we can have a debate and discussion about what we want to do with those in terms of prioritizing them or not, or adding things even at that point or not, or discarding the whole process. But it's an opportunity to kind of drive at what are the biggest and most important things that the commissioners are thinking of in terms of the board's priorities for the year. Commissioner Chan.
Yes, I did submit it. Maybe I was late.
They're on there.
Is that,
I put yours on there.
you put me in there?
Yeah.
Could not recognize it, but I'll make sure of that, okay.
Yeah, they're
Oh, okay, okay,
middle
okay.
towards middle
okay.
bottom
Yeah,
a
I
little
see
bit.
some of them.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And if you have other things, taking a look at this list, please email those to Ms. Blankenship. So anyways, that's a process that I see that gets us to the next meeting. At the next meeting, we have that debate. Hopefully, we resolve it at that meeting, and then we've got our board priorities for the year. The tension, if there has been any, is around the other items on the list and commissioners in past years not wanting the other things to fall off the list. And so we've dealt with that in a number of ways, but the common way we've dealt with it is just basically had a line in the piece of paper saying, these 3 things that got the most designations or the most support from commissioners are broad priorities. Sometimes we rank them 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 or not, and they're just alphabetical. And then below the line are just listed other priorities. That way nothing falls off the list, or we can get rid of the other priorities and just have it at the top, whatever the flavor is of the board as we do the debate. But that gets us to an opportunity to talk about these, but have a sense of where everybody, how much support the items have as we reach the debate. Commissioner Walkerman.
Yeah, curious, the first 2 with the capital facilities planning for bond ballot measures for general election 2026, and then the public education for bond ballot measures. Are they separate since they are so closely?
Well, they come from two different sources.
Okay.
So that's the reason that they're on there. But, in our discussion, that may be something that is melded together. But part of my desire with the list is not to, other than, maybe for uh, ease of wording, I don't want to edit the ideas at this point. I want to encourage the ideas. And then when it comes time to actually doing the list, we may need to consolidate some of them. Yeah. But I want to see if there are other ideas, other thoughts. But if not, let's plan to do that. If you have something more for the list, get those to Ms. Blankenship by this coming end of business this Thursday. Otherwise, she will send out the list on Friday morning. And then based on that, you have a week until noon on January 30th to submit your 5 designations just by email, nothing special. And then she'll collect that together and go out in the packet for the February 3 meeting. And then we'll have a debate about those and hopefully finalize something. So not seeing any objections to that. That's kind of the direction we'll move and go from there. All right. Thank you. We will then move forward in the agenda. Let's see if we got enough time before our meeting break. I think we do. 9C, Chief, do we have time to? Yeah, that is the Ready Rebound 1-year renewal request. And
It'll be me.
it's going to be
Chair.
Chief Maxwell tonight. Okay, great. Chief Maxwell, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair and Board. Coming back to you, our Health and Safety Chief, Mike Hudson, was here yesterday to explain the Ready Rebound program, a program that gets our firefighters back to work faster. It's an accelerated program. When they're injured, they have an average of 3 days. The goal is to not have people on disability for weeks or sometimes months waiting for a surgery. We came to you last week with a 3-year renewal, but actually after talking to Winslow and Jeff of our new brokers, they checked the rates and said, yes, we're getting a good rate, but they recommended we'd only do a 1-year renewal. So we were able to negotiate the 1 year, which would have been the same that we were getting for the 3 years. And they're going to work with us just as L&I rates and everything are going up. They're going to work with us to see if we can optimize it further. And they didn't want us to get trapped into 3 years if we found new solutions. So requesting action to renew it for 1 year because it is a good program. We are getting a good rate and we'll probably need the time to reassess everything. So requesting action on this, please.
Any general questions on the Ready Rebound 1-year renewal proposition? Sorry. Oh, Commissioner Rowland, please go ahead.
Yes, going with the 3-year renewal locks us in, I would assume at whatever the rate is that is quoted. What's the thought process behind, I guess, the calculus behind anticipated changes in the next year to rates and our ability to make changes to get a better deal in a year? As we know, everything's kind of subject to change. Nobody's got a crystal ball, but I just wanted to understand the thought process behind the recommendation to only do 1 year right now.
The recommendation on the 1 year was that our new broker said that they did a quick analysis and said we are getting a good rate currently. However, one of their specialties with WHA, the brokerage, are to work on workers' comp, L&I, and all these things. That's their specialty. And so they just recommended we don't get trapped into a 3-year contract if we found better solutions.
Commissioner Chan. Oh, sorry. Right. Commissioner Rowland, go ahead.
Nope, just I guess, we're paying them for their expert advice, so we'll trust that they're going to hopefully get us a better rate next year. Thank you.
Thanks. And they did say they checked. We are doing good as we are as well.
Commissioner Chan.
So I got you confused. So are they guaranteed but they're not guaranteed the rate? I don't want to come and say, hey, good for you, but if we can lock in all 3 years rate, Is that, but they're not gonna able lock in our 3 years rate.
That was, I came in, or we came last week proposing to do a 3-year contract.
Right.
We were able to negotiate a 1-year rate at the 3-year rate. So it was 84 per year for 3 years, but we were able to get them to renew just for 1 year at the same rate we would have gotten for signing up for all 3 years.
So on the second year, if we renew, they still give us the same rate.
Not
Okay,
necessarily.
so they're not then they're not locking the 3-year rate.
Right, because we chose not to.
Oh, I thought they advised you not to. Not, we
No,
choose to.
Our new insurance brokerage said, don't get locked into a 3-year program, because what we're going to be doing is working with WHA and Winslow to analyze all of our programs to maximize, their effectiveness or cost.
Oh, so we have to go for another insurance, another agent to get
Yeah.
to them.
I apologize, Commissioner Chan. So this is quite separate,
Right.
but it's in the realm of what Winslow's work does, but it's a completely separate contract. They're going to help us look at all of our risk, all of our insurance, all of our workers' comp. This is a separate way to get people back to work sooner, but they specialize in helping us with this. So they didn't want us to be trapped into 3 years. If we analyze something and they're like, hey, ready, rebound, you're good to go, keep going, then we will keep going. But if we find something better doing all our work with WHA, with Winslow, then we won't be trapped for 3 years.
That's the issue, is if Ready Rebound fits and works for the organization, we'll continue with them. But we don't want to be stuck with them for 3 years. We find out when the new broker comes in and says, really, you should be using this, not this, because it's better for you. And if we're locked into a 3-year deal with Ready Rebound, we're stuck with them for 3 years. That's what they're talking about, is Ready Rebound really the solution we need? It's working. The price point's good. Do it for a year. Let us reevaluate. Let's look what's out there and make sure there's not something out there that better suits the RFA.
Okay, so
Right? So it's more, Commissioner Chan, they don't want us stuck with them for 3 years. Renew for a year. They'll do the market. If they say Ready Rebound's the game to stay with, we'll engage with Ready Rebound. But if we find that Ready Rebound, we found other solutions that are better suited for us, we want to be able to change vendors and move
Okay.
forward. So
Okay.
that's the rationale behind it,
Okay.
is so we don't, that's what they want to be able to work
Okay,
with Sean and the rest of the
I think
team
the key word
to make
is
sure.
another vendor. I
Yes.
thought the same people, but they have different program. Okay. All right, thank you.
Leave our options open.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we're ready for a motion. I'll move that we approve a 1-year subscription with Ready Rebound 2026 in the amount of $84,033.34. It's been seconded by Commissioner Wankelman. So moved and seconded to approve that subscription. And is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Chan, go ahead.
I really support the program. I didn't realize different thing, but I think it's critical for 2 reasons. Number one, I think it gives our people, we care about them and we want them to get well quickly. And the same, I'm sorry. Oh, you see something? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it's, and then I think the second part is that I think monetary, I think we should gain, so it's kind of on both. It's good for both our staff and for the whole financially good.
Any other discussion on the motion? Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we are at 8:30 and now is our usual recess time. Why don't we go ahead and take about a 10-minute recess or so, and then we'll come back to item 10A in new business. So without objection, we'll be in a 10-minute recess. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Well done.
We're back on the record and ready to resume the board meeting. We're resuming at item 10. We're in new business, item 10A. And next up is the introduction of the administrative salary survey with Matt Weatherly. Good evening, Mr. Weatherly.
So Commissioner Kenny, if I could just give a little
Yes,
brief
go
introduction.
ahead.
So if the board recalls last year when we were looking at the priorities for 2025, doing an admin salary survey was one of those. And we entered into a scope of work for an entity that halfway through stopped doing that kind of work as a result of downsizing in the company, or they were going to stop doing that scope of work. And for multitude of reasons, we weren't able to complete that survey at that time. We got towards the end of 2025, and there were some things that we've done organizationally, and some changes in the HR division. One of the things I wanted to get completed prior to me departing, knowing that at some point in time I was going to retire, was to at least get started on the salary survey. We were already in the process of doing the comparable work for the collective bargaining agreement that was ratified last week. As part of that work, staff and quite frankly, with the help of the labor representative that's on there, we grabbed the comparables not just for labor, but for all employees that both represented and non-represented within the RFA. So they were able to, in the work of grabbing, the firefighter comparables, they also asked the same people, can we get your admin staff, get their job descriptions, so we could actually start at least gathering the information as we were working on what we were going to do with the salary survey to get it completed. And since we were already doing that work, it was really easy to talk to the folks, get that information. They did, and they put it in a very similar format that we use for doing total cost of compensation for negotiations with our collective bargaining group. And I think it was Chief Maxwell and Chief Anderson, took that on and started looking for folks that could help us complete the salary survey. Mr. Weatherly was one of the folks they talked to. Had a conversation with him, and some of the history we've had with salary surveys, some have been good, some have not been good. Both, I think, we remember some of the perspective from the board and some of the perspective from staff in previous surveys we've done. And both Sean and Todd, Matt was, in staff's perspective, was a good fit for the organization, had a really good understanding. I believe in the conversation that he has with you tonight, he does understand not just public safety, not just fire, but he does understand the private sector. He does understand other government. He does have philosophical ways of doing it that I think the board will be pleased with as we move forward with the survey. Tonight, he's going to give a little bit of background of who he is, kind of how he does work. Staff has had good conversation with him, and a lot of the concerns that we have had over the years, we've already had conversations with him about. And we were able to give him the information we gathered from our getting the information on behalf of the work we were doing for negotiating 1828, and say, here's the comparables for the fire service to give him a head start. He could validate, verify the information we got, and then do the rest of the work he will do as a result of the work he does. And so tonight, so I guess I want the board to know he's been doing work, and we want to introduce you to him, for him to explain kind of who he is, his process, and some of the things that I know you'll ask, like how do you look at fire service centric, then you look at other governmental entities and how do they weigh in? You look at the public sector, how do they weigh in? And then hopefully through the dialogue, if there's other things that the board, wants to be part of the evaluation process. We can incorporate that into the work that he's doing on our behalf prior to bringing a draft proposal forward before the board, and hopefully ratifying a salary survey, moving forward. He's doing the salary survey based on 2025 as a result of the ability to go back to the beginning of last year, just to give you an idea of kind of where he started, and a little bit of background. So I'm happy to introduce Matt Weatherly. He is the president of Public Sector Personnel Consulting. He does do work in Washington State. He did Puget Sound. He just completed not that long ago Puget Sound.
Snohomish Regional.
Sorry, Snohomish Regional
Wonderful.
and salary survey. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt. Matt will introduce himself, give you a little bit of background, and hopefully open up dialogue with the board to make sure that as we go and continue to work through and get a draft that we bring for the board, that we incorporate any, just make sure the board's part of the process. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Great. Good evening, Mr. Weatherly.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, appreciate the time this evening. I'll be fairly brief. Given the introduction, I wanted to certainly introduce our firm. It's not just the Matt Show. There's 10 of us on our staff that perform about 60 to 70 salary surveys annually throughout the United States, and I would say loosely exclusively for the public sector. Lots of work at the municipal level, but also at the special district level, occasionally, reluctantly at the county level. Those are a different, set of structures and boards and stakeholders, that kind of thing. All that qualifies us to do is ask good questions, right? What factors influence this entity's ability to recruit and retain staff? So I'll dive down into talking specifically about the jobs in question as far as our scope of work, but we have had a chance to do quite a bit of work in Washington State in the last couple of years. We've done 4 salary surveys for the city of Bothell. We've done work recently for Everett, for Auburn. We're going to go to work for Tukwila, Mount Vernon, Snohomish Regional, Land Trust, Capital Land Trust, and then about 10 other land trusts piled onto that one. Annually, throughout the United States, home base for a lot of us is Arizona, but we have staff in California. We have staff in Texas. We do work every year for about 7 or 8 regional fire districts that get together and share all of their data and effort on a regional basis in Travis County, outside of Austin, big, fast growing, area, but where fire service isn't always held at the municipal level. Those EMS districts, kind of jump in. Our methodology certainly, can be boiled down to and simplified in terms of what are your jobs and what's the going rate for those jobs. Certainly, occasionally we'll be reviewing job descriptions, doing desk audits, doing site visits, ride-alongs, revising job descriptions, creating new job titles. So the what are the jobs piece, the history that we've walked into here, fairly stable. Your administrative wage schedule has about 25 or 30 different job titles on it. That gives us a chance at surveying just about every single position. Generally in our business, you might want to survey half of your jobs and then make some reasonable internal inferences about the non-benchmark jobs. But what the heck, while you got us, we're certainly going to try and survey and answer the question, how are we doing for every single classification? We do have some patterns that we're able to follow, but our observations when we start to compare maybe union to non-rep or uniformed and ops to admin globally, I'm making generic, not aspersions, that's a strong word, but our experience in a lot of places is there's a lot more pattern and a lot more scripted technique to studying those covered positions that are in a union. We do this on every 2 years for our 3-year agreement, or we do it every 3 to 5 years and we negotiate to median and those types of things. But sometimes that's lacking on the administrative side and on the non-rep side. Certainly we would want to talk about framing up and reacting to data to really allow you as decision makers to make policy statements, right? And if not a formal one, at least an informal one. Where do we want to be in the world that we're competing with to attract and retain staff? certainly specifically to the administrative wage schedule, goals, do not need to be separate from, but I'm looking at the entire organization, even though we're not surveying your uniformed positions, to say, do we have a practice of wanting to compete, of wanting to recruit and retain? We want to honor the, more global intent of positioning all jobs at market and at their respective market. So certainly when we look at the admin wage scale, you have finance positions, IT positions, business support positions, data, very, highly specialized positions that allow your command staff and your executive team, to make really real-time decisions with the data that they're being given. These are highly specialized, positions. So by nature, I do want to look at other fire districts and other fire entities that have like jobs. At some point, there is a size sensitivity to it, but out of bounds for our scope of work is the deputy chiefs and the assistant chiefs or the fire chiefs or whatever else you have. We're really focusing on, the finance staff, the HR staff, the IT staff, the hey, how long has it been since we've looked at, these groups? Anecdotally, I never want to hear that you tried to do a salary survey and it didn't go well. I need you to be doing this every 3 to 5 years so I can bid on it and have an opportunity to do it. Meaning, I want it to go well each time you do it, right? So certainly this evening, all we wanted to accomplish, I think, was making sure that you had a comfort level with our approach, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail, but then also take back any notes so that, if we attend or even dial into a future board meeting with data, that you're comfortable with how we arrived at those findings and those conclusions. There are specific comparators that I believe your collective bargaining agreement folks look at, other fire districts and other municipal fire departments for establishing the market rate for those positions. I think it's appropriate to follow that pattern, but then also look at other employers, both public and private, where possible, where you might have some portability or a risk even to say, if we have IT people, where else might our IT people ply their trade without changing the kid's school district or selling their house and relocating? HR, finance, business support, all of these positions that are included have a market as well. Might not be limited to fire districts, but I certainly don't want to get so far afield that I end up with kind of a disparate set of numbers or practices when it comes to total compensation. We've collected the job descriptions, the organization charts, the salary plans, and the benefits details from those comparator organizations. So both the background material that was provided to us when our phone rang, we have vetted that information through the 2025 budgetary year. We have scrubbed and made updates because, of course, the data changes maybe even in the time that we've had the meeting, this evening, but certainly every month or so, something else changes, out in the market. A position gets reclassified or a new agreement comes into place. So looking at the data that we were provided, the numbers are a little bit different. We view and saw some different job matches, so we've certainly made edits to that. So we'll be prepared in short order. I mean, whether it's a February board meeting or whatever's appropriate, to be able to start presenting those findings and recommendations. But effectively, we're surveying every position. We're looking at job descriptions. We're looking at job duties. We're collecting pay data. What's different from agency to agency is how wide or how narrow their pay bands are, who has steps in their pay band, or if it's an open range with just a minimum and a maximum. And then you can start to layer in those things that are a significant cost to every employer, sometimes more significant to public than private, granted, but pension contributions, health insurance contributions for employees and dependents, ad pay, education incentives, longevity, deferred compensation, so that I can at least arrive at 2 sets of numbers to say, but what about? So that if we do come back and say, you know what, we're low on pay for a couple of these 30 positions that we've surveyed, we have an ability to also say, but are we covering the spread on benefits? Or if we're off 3% on pay and we're 3% ahead on benefits, is that good? Right? Now we're back to more of a philosophical conversation. What is our workforce value? What are they looking for? Do the benefits matter to the 25-year-old the same as the 50-year-old? Probably not. But the sheer realities of what happens when you post a job is fascinating to me because that's better and bigger than any data, that I might be able to bring at least to the planning phase. Everything that we will be doing until the very bitter end is a paper exercise. But having maybe staff in the room, having you all representing taxpayers in the room, surveys are not the means by which everybody sees a salary increase. That's what your annual budget is for. That's what bargaining is for. That's what maybe a performance review and a step increase is for. The survey is going to tell us out of 30 jobs, how many jobs are where we want them to be. But there will also be an opportunity to have that conversation around, hey, if we've got a couple that are low, do we want to catch up? Do we want to be at median? Do we want to be at median plus 3%, plus 5%? Try to get within 5%. Our goals innocently are for you to have all jobs have a similar relationship to market. So if that's at median or at average, let's talk about that. And then behind the scenes, continue to work with your staff and your HR team to develop the kind of the tools that might sit behind your all decision. How do we refresh the data? How do we monitor the market in non-survey years? Do we have a pay philosophy? Does our salary table allow us to place positions where we want them to be in relation to market? And I would also say in relation to one another. So currently you have pay grades to pick from. They're not all there. There's differences between each pay grade. The range width is fairly similar, but I want to try and square up, and leave behind a pay table that allows you to be really intentional with how you plan for salary administration and then future salary and benefits considerations. I'll pause there, Mr. Chair, just in case there's initial questions that I might be able to answer or anything that you'd like me to flesh out a little bit more.
Yes, Commissioner Fernhoff.
Thank you very much for being here. In that survey, I'm assuming that you take into account locality pay. So some organizations, let's say, for example, federal, actually do a locality pay based on where you are, cost of living. Do you compare not only local, but on a national level as well?
No national comparisons.
Okay.
These admin positions, I would say maybe save for a CFO here and there, are going to be filled by people that already live within commuting distance of our buildings. And so I would be remiss in losing the regional cost of living that is real, here by comparison to maybe that national average. We do this all over the United States. I'm not a big fan of fuzzy math. But let me tell you what a challenge the Capital Land Trust was trying to find like jobs, for that entity. So these are pretty known and fairly locally recruited positions. So it is local and regional data.
Another question for you, uniquely, because of the size of our department, you wouldn't expect it, but we actually have a couple of layers of volunteers within our organization. I would be curious to know what your salary survey, just based on scope of work that they do for us, public outreach and a couple of other things, what that actually would equate to if they were actually an employee, and how much money that would cost the RFA if we had to make that kind of an expenditure.
Got it.
So I don't know if that falls within the bucket of what you do, but.
It absolutely can. I think if you have either job description duties, or an understanding of kind of what role those positions serve, very much so. Give me a job and I can study it. I would definitely say, to establish at least kind of that business case for look what we get, out of our volunteers.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, thank you for explaining. And then I also like you're non-national. I think the bad experience we had before is that we'll hire someone from the Midwest and she's telling us, this is the rate. She never lived here. She never,
Sure.
all that. Our biggest challenge is this. Every single taxpayer can make a public request, see how much, who will pay, right? Now, for the firefighters, because we're pretty restricted to comparable with other firefighting and all that. So, it's, and not majority of our taxpayers not firefighter, but they are receptionists for a doctor, they are accountant to someone else,
Sure.
right? So if they look at our rate and they say, hey, wait a minute, how come I got only paid this, right? Okay, but and those data is really readily available. If you go and Google it, there's a I forget, there's many Bureau of Labor and Statistics, they
Yep.
probably show you all that. And ADP probably can give you all that stuff. So they're very easy to look at that. So one of the things that we have to make sure, I don't see our reception that much of different from a reception of job in there. There's no special training to be a fire service receptionist or even accountant and that type of thing. So that's why I want you to be aware of that kind of a sensitivity to make sure that, you know, compare apple to apple or something. And then overall, always the people working in the government are more job security than the business itself. Right? Business can go up and down, they may excessive, and that is kind of intangible things included. So how do you deal with that? That's how.
Yeah,
Are you really focused on just government, or are you really on this, on what I mentioned, reception? Actually, you really need to compare with the non-government, right, public.
The leading source of our private sector data will be from Economic Research Institute. That is a paid subscription that will give me 2026 data within 50 miles of where we're sitting for that accountant, for that receptionist. Bureau of Labor Statistics has it, divvied up.
Right.
Their last data collection was late 2023. So when they publish it by mid 24, they're missing a year and a half to 3 years of probably 6 to 10% wage growth. But certainly you're spot on. You can get data. Need to know what's sitting behind that data because I can get the participant reports for Snohomish County regional private employers that are reporting to Economic Research Institute. It's a really neat tool because it's dominated by the private sector, dominated by industry and by service. Sample sizes run between 1 to 7,000 job data points per benchmark. It's a massive tool. I mean, we spend just under $3,000 a year for it. It's very reasonable as sources go. There are other Seattle-based sources of private sector data like Milliman. They have some regional presence here. And to your point, yes, is the short answer. We'd be including and we will include private sector data in the analysis. What's interesting, studying total compensation, public versus private, we'll pick on Bureau of Labor Statistics since you brought them up. They spent 2.5 years attempting to compare the public pension to the 401k. And after, I have no idea what they spent on that. Paragraph 1A, no. That was their finding. After 2.5 years, we cannot compare the public pension to the 401k match. And so that left me a little bit wanting because what we oftentimes see is, I would say for entry level and maybe up to mid-level professional, the public sector offers some benefits. I don't know about the security anymore because I have a lot of clients that are lean. You have only so many staff and they do wear a lot of hats if we want to go down that rabbit hole as far as job description, job design. But certainly the sensitivity when I look at the public versus the private on total comp, the total number might be the same, but what's allocated to pay and what's allocated to benefits shifts from about 29% in the private to maybe about 38% of my pay in the public when I start adding up benefits. And then once we reach management, and I don't know who's in the room, let's just say your IT manager or even your CFO. In the private sector, their quarterly bonus and stock option exceeds the annual salary you're offering them. And so we lose out on that public-private argument. I would say if I'm an accounting clerk or maybe even an accountant or an administrative assistant, I would encourage you to be in the public sector because you're assured of some pretty regular cost of living adjustments. You're not necessarily, as subject to the layoff and the RIF, but it's out there. But that sways in favor of the private sector at the management level and certainly in your neighborhood when it comes to probably IT, to a degree, healthcare and finance.
Okay, I
But
think
we would bring it forth so that you're comfortable with that balance between government and private to honor the ask of what is the prevailing rate for each
I
position.
would assume majority of my taxpayer is not set up for Microsoft.
Right.
So they don't have the balance, they don't have the bonuses and stuff like that.
Sure.
I myself is CFO, but I never get that kind of stuff. And then my job security is that if my boss get off the wrong side of the bed, I'm out.
You're out.
So I think majority, that's our regular people.
Sure.
So I would be more conscientious on that side. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Weatherly, I wanted to ask about just kind of and you're talking along the lines that I was thinking, was that using our fire department comparables from our union contract, but then also using government entities like nearby, because an employee in the administrative staff would probably be employed by one of those other entities if they were living in the area. And, the ones that jump out to me are Snohomish County government, I don't know, City of Linwood, City of Edmonds. It's couple of our school districts are pretty large, Everett School District, Edmonds School District. So, when I think about other government entities nearby, those all stand out to me as our competitors for some of our administrative staff.
Very good.
And then I was interested to hear what you had to say about private sector, and layering in some of the private sector, which comes with some caveats, which you've described.
Yeah.
But will you how do you reflect that in your study? In other words, do we know for any particular position what entities you have considered it against? Or is it like you've considered all of these and it's just kind of in the mix?
Yeah, so certainly the presence of the public sector is appropriate. You all live in that similar fishbowl, so those school districts, the county, the cities, and that's kind of why we stay in that lane, as we can get the data. On the private sector side, the tools that we do subscribe to, they do share the participant list. I can't tease it out and say, Caterpillar's paying X, but I can see that Caterpillar's in my data, as an example. And so they'll share those participant lists, but those corporations that are responding are doing so under the condition of anonymity.
Okay.
And so it is in a broader brush, but a localized broader brush. So ERI is up over, I think, 900 MSA localized areas where I can pin data. And I think what's really important as where we sit is isolating King County, because those numbers get highly influenced. And you get an echo effect, certainly, if I can work somewhere, but I can live somewhere else, those are benefits that I can try to gain, a little bit. But having worked, now with the Edmonds and the Bothels and some of those where they're like, we can't compare to King County. And I'm like, you're competing with them, as far as traffic goes. I mean, just driving around as a visitor, kind of thing. So it is certainly a balance, but I think honoring, my guess is that CBA has historically largely stayed out of King County, as well. So, on a local and regional basis, I think, you're spot on, but I would want to balance it. Now, down in the weeds, I might bring you the average of, give me a job here, HR analyst, give me an average of the public sector, and then give me the private sector, and we can talk about, do we want to weight that? Do we want to weight that 50-50, knowing that I might have 10 public and an average, and then 1,000 private hiding out? Do I weight those equally, or do I change anything? And then what's missing out of that is probably the details on benefits and on total cash. I can get total cash because those private corporations will respond that way. And that's kind of more of here's their pay plus their merit, or here's their pay plus their stock option, that kind of thing. But it's a little bit grayer than being able to give you the line items for the public sector, and say, this is where, because if you're in the state pension system, we need to recognize that if someone's given you 7 to 10 years and you're in a public pension system, they're probably going to stay in it, unless they really get, a super offer to be like, I can leave that, kind of thing. So that's both good and bad because it limits your pool as far as potential candidates.
Yeah.
But you also get, your claws into them a little bit because they need to stay in that public if they've paid into it, for a considerable amount of time. So there is a balance. No doubt you're a public entity. Your benefits are, a significant portion of your total compensation, as is every other governmental or public, agency that we've studied. So.
And so when you produce like results for a position like HR director,
Yeah.
will there be like a like a salary range with like steps within the salary range, or how do you produce a result for a
Yeah.
particular job description?
Sure. No,
Job.
I love that question. So I'm going to give you all the raw data, right, for those jobs. And then we're going to talk about maybe a one-page pay table for a minute. And I'm going to marry those two up by saying, I think these jobs belong in grade 10, and market says these belong in grade 7, and these belong in grade 3. So I need to translate a balance between the market data and internal logic. Now, we might have a discussion to have in the appropriate setting too, because right now it's not clear if you have an HR director, an HR manager, a senior manager, like how we want to treat that classification. I think more just based on kind of staff turnover, recently. So I've got data on multiple levels, in fact, of that particular position. But the presence of a pay table, I would want that to offer some flexibility for placement of jobs and then intent. And the intent would be to administer salaries along that range or along that pay band according to what it is that you value. So if steps is appropriate and, culturally accepted, that's what we're going to find in the market, as well. If you wanted to do something different, we're still going to offer a minimum to maximum salary range recommendation for each position. And you can do that job by job, and each one has its own range, or you can build out that pay table that kind of lives forever, and then jobs move. But not all jobs move, right? The market data says, hey, that job that's in a 7 belongs in a 7, but that other job that's in an 8 needs to go to a 9, right? And that's just a job by job type of analysis to say, do we want to balance out internal alignment where all of our managers are in the same range or all of our directors are in the same range, or not, because the market may tell us something slightly different.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Liaison Morris.
I got a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Roughly how long have you looked at private sector comparables for public jobs, or has that been a best practice?
Yeah, I think the majority. So our firm dates back to 1991. I joined the firm in 1999. And I would say probably 70 to 80% of our survey work, job by job, where there is portability. So labor and trades, office and clerical, professional technical, so IT, finance, purchasing, HR, those types of positions, you're gonna see some private sector data in that math, really just to kind of keep tabs. Now, certainly post-COVID 2023 and after, a lot of public entities have some entry-level positions, and you've been bullied into a number, right? We pay for it, to Commissioner Chan's, point too about we can push them out. We can play with our pricing, I think as well. So when we go to the drive-through, it's, $19 an hour and benefits is the sign on the drive-through. We're hiring. Or go to Costco and it's whatever it is, $26 an hour to scan your membership card, to come in with day shift and air conditioning and benefits. Boy, howdy. So when I look at municipal jobs, custodial, labor, sometimes you get bullied into a specific number at the bottom that almost has nothing to do with other governmental entities. It has everything to do with that local living wage, because that's the labor pool that you might be competing with, even if it's not for a like, position. But I would say certainly, we've done, last checked, since I joined the firm, well, let me back up. Let me go forward, actually. I bought the firm in 2006, and we've done 550 studies since then. Probably 85% of the survey work has private sector data in it.
All right, and then with that, if you're looking at other comparable, government agencies, how do you look at their data and say, well, they took a salary survey post-COVID and over-applied or over-adjusted? And
yeah.
factor that in.
Yeah, I mean, in my world, that's a going concern, overreacting, to that 2023-24 CPI and inflation. I mean, we had a lot of clients whose unions wanted to reopen those agreements that they signed right before those huge inflationary numbers, came out. So I'm a big fan of administering salaries within a sustainable set of pay ranges than I am just shoving the whole pay range up by a significant amount. So back to my one pager example, if we have a pay table that lives over here, I want to see minute adjustments to the pay table. You do whatever you want to people within those ranges.
Right.
So you react to the market on payroll, right? But don't react to something you can't live with in 5 years on the pay table itself, as far as that overreaction. But you see it a lot, right? We've worked with Edmonds, we've worked with Bothell. They might go 5, 7, 9 years and do nothing, and they do something huge, like market reaction, and sometimes that's change of council, change of leadership, excessive turnover, higher retirement rates. I think turnover has settled in a little bit, but certainly if you lean into the private sector frustrations for a while, because when you talk to HR executives, the things that keep them up at night are recruitment and retention. Certainly in the private sector, they do have some total rewards tools that are at their disposal. It's very difficult to find public sector jobs that can work from home. That hasn't quite tipped back all the way over, but that's in that bucket, when people were really demanding the flexibility or demanding like, well, I don't want your job in 2023 because I can go get another one. I feel like that's settled in now a little bit, where there's a few more people looking for work than there are jobs available. Again, if that answers your question.
Appreciate it.
Other questions?
Follow-up question.
Commissioner Chan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to follow up that. I think you mentioned very big name Caterpillar and other paper. Isn't that, if I remember correctly, they have different like sizes of the company on the private, right?
Yes.
So many company that way. So I don't think using Caterpillar, Microsoft, that is a very good comparison. Also too, is Microsoft just going to lay off a lot of people. Amazon lay off a lot of people. And I just yesterday, Meta, the Facebook, is laying off another 300 people. So Apple and all the high-tech companies no longer a very secure job anymore. If I remember correct, the way I say it, because I'm really representing the citizen, right? And we just have gone for an annexation. One of the opposition group is basically saying, accusing us for paying way big salary, right? And blah, blah, blah. That's why the tax go up. So I'm very sensitive of that. And as long as I have been here, I don't see, we did not really lay off the clerk at all, if you don't remember. We don't really, because, we don't go, in a sense, good sources, we have a steady taxes of revenue, not like other business, right?
Sure.
So in general, I think we are we're much more stable if people want to have a good, stable job, will we work here versus other big company.
Yeah, and I think if we talk about pay philosophy, I think that belongs in the conversation. What factors influence the entity? What are the service level expectations? What is the presence of competition nearby? What are your staffing levels, right? Can you run kind of a sweet spot of lean, but you're not burning people out? Yeah, I think to your point, the stability is another ingredient in that cake when we talk about that.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rowland, go ahead.
So I guess in a way, there's more stability. Yes, that's true. But if I'm looking for a job, I'm also looking for making sure that I'm being compensated for what value I bring to the business. So when you have a position that pays less than the prevailing rate, yes, companies like Microsoft do layoffs. what positions get laid off matter. Sometimes they're middle management and they're just trying to get rid of layers of complexity that have, developed over time. Sometimes it's, scheduled or kind of routine culling of, the underperforming employees that happens on a cadence, as opposed to just when they do something egregious. So when we see in the news these layoffs, there's a lot to them, and when we're trying to attack talent, we have to realize that most people don't look for public work unless they've already been in it, and there's an incentive for it. If it's going to pay less than prevailing wages uh, in the private sector, especially if those private sector jobs come with a shiny title and company to put on the resume. Those things are worth money and worth it to their career. So the other thing is I've seen firsthand where people jump from public sector job to public sector job or private sector job to private sector job, um, because they are underperforming, but it's very hard for that to catch up to them. And so we just need to make sure that wherever we set our rates, value the individuals that we're trying to bring into the role, and make sure that we are competitive with, at least to a point, some of these private sector jobs that are their other option. I think if most people who are really, really talented workers assume that whatever job they get, they're probably not going to be the first to be let go if there are layoffs, because they are talented employees. They are bringing good value to the business. So at the end of the day, I think we do need to, look at everything in totality, figure out where we want to be, figure out where our priorities are, and make sure that we're being fair to those that we're trying to retain and those that we're trying to attract.
Any other questions? What is our Chief Eastman, what's our path forward in terms of timing and product?
Well, I think we'll take the conversation we had tonight. We'll tie it back in with Matt and have him complete and take the input from today and continue to do his work. I'm not so sure we'll be able to meet the work session in February. I think the soonest would be is probably come back. At the soonest would be the last meeting of February. I see Chief Maxwell taking notes. And then I think there's some work that staff still needs to do with him and his team. And kind of, I'm sure there's questions now that he's done to sit and at least talk with the executive staff and get some of those questions answered. And tonight will help get a draft that I think we understand as staff, and then bring that draft before the board, give you a conversation about that draft, and have Matt present it. And maybe there'll probably be some input from staff at the same time about kind of how we landed in a couple of different places because of things we've been thinking about in the conversation we had, and let it, if we had that meeting and we're able to do it by the third meeting of February, that probably gives us a break to digest it, think about it, bring it back the first meeting of March, for continued questions, continued conversation, and, depending on where those conversations go at some point, whether it's that meeting or the following business meeting that we have for the board to, accept a salary survey or accept the salary survey that's been completed. And then additionally, we'll have to have some conversations about when does it take effect. We've had some resolutions that provide some flexibility, Commissioner Kenny, as you know, when we passed the budget. And so there'll be some other conversations to go along with, do we like it? Do we accept it? And then what do we do? And then what's the plan for implementation?
Sounds good. Mr. Weatherly, is there anything else we should be at the board level here be thinking about regarding this?
No, I think the input's been valuable. I think it gives me a couple more data points to go look at. And then, yeah, we'd bring forth, some examples, some walkthroughs, some executive summary, to our methodology. I think timing wise, all of that, is completely reasonable. So, not anything else that I can think of.
Sounds good. Thank you. And thank you for coming here tonight
You
to,
bet. Great to meet you guys.
speak
Thank
with the
you.
board. Great. Oh, Commissioner Rowland, did you have another question?
No, I'll take the hand up.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Then that will move us forward in the agenda then to item 10B, which is our South County Fire and City of Linwood Community Health Worker Partnership ILA for discussion and action with Chief Hughes. Good evening, Chief Hughes.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss and answer any questions in regard to the City of Linwood Community Health Worker ILA that's in your board packet. As you guys are probably already aware, we were awarded another contract with Verdant again this year. I believe this is about the 12th or 13th year in a row. That contract's for $571,000. And the grant will continue to fund what has been funded in my 3 years in this role. Plus, this year, there's a collaborative enhancement that we worked with Chief Langdon from Linwood Police Department and the City of Linwood. And that's in regard to a embedded community health worker within Linwood Police Department. So the focus of what the embedded community health worker will do is it's going to work on care connection and that wraparound care that's so essential for the folks in need to have that continued care to help them in the numerous areas that they need help in. Some of the focus points that we will have for our community health workers with the Linwood Police Department here would be assistance with homelessness, with substance use disorder, with behavioral health, and also with high system utilizers. So it really aligns with the mission, what the community health worker and the community resource paramedic program has been founded on by Chief Maxwell, 13, 14 years ago now, I believe. So what this is really going to do, though, it's going to codify what's already been happening organically within our community health worker team. Linwood Police Department has seen the success that our community health worker program has had, and they have been using essentially organically our community health workers to assist them with what we would call the Linwood centric surge of the needs within the CRP program. So this will be a value add for South County Fire as we're adding an additional community health worker. Right now, our 3 community health workers have caseloads of around 45, and traditionally we want them to be around somewhere in that 30 range for case management. So this will help take off some of that burden and keep the focus on with Linwood PD and the needs that they have in the city, especially with the arrival of the light rail. That's brought a lot of community members that have needs up here into the Linwood area, and the community health workers have done a good job navigating them to the needs or to the things that they need to be successful. So now one important thing to note is that this community health worker position is advertised and will be a limited term employee as it's tied to this contract or grant from Verdant Health. So South County Fire retains pretty much all employment aspects of this community health worker that's embedded with Linwood PD, to include the hiring, onboarding, compensation, mentorship, and training. Linwood PD will essentially have an operational oversight in conjunction with our current CRP captain. With that, I thank you for your time and entertain any questions that you might have.
Yes, questions from the board. Commissioner Fernahoff.
What is, you said it's a term position. What is the term?
The term, it's a one-year
year?
contract. A one-year contract.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board members? Commissioner Wonkelman.
So I had the opportunity to talk to Chief Langdon about the challenges that they were facing with their own social workers and the excitement that he expressed being able to bring a CHW over in and bring South County Fire in a integrated partnership being able to handle a lot of the challenges. So from our conversation, I think this is an incredible opportunity. Also, it expresses and it shows the dynamics that the South County Fire's CRP program brings to the ecosystem in dealing with some of the biggest community challenges that we're facing today. And so I'm excited for this partnership. I'm excited to see how we're able to develop it, and I'm hoping that we can get it longer than a year.
Thanks, Commissioner. Welcome in. Actually, today, Captain Sharp and myself met with Chief Langdon to discuss some of the potential operational impacts that we will have, and to see his excitement of working with South County Fire in a more formalized role was really refreshing to see.
Go ahead.
As far as the conversation goes and the integration of both, the two departments, how are we seeing that communication, that shared, basically conversation in handling these larger tasks that we're going to be facing?
Yeah, I think it really starts with relationships. And South County Fire has established a really good working relationship with Linwood PD. And it's also part of the brand as well. South County Fire is not just a regional leader when it comes to mobile integrated healthcare or community resource paramedic programs. We were one of the first that Chief Maxwell started in this country. So that brand has been a uniquely powerful brand, and most of the endeavors we have taken on have been wildly successful, whether it be the MOUD program, where we're helping those with substance use disorder, finding treatment pathways for them, or it could be just the community health worker ability for them to have wraparound care and navigate these community members to the resources that they need so they can experience success. So both, to answer your question, I think it's relationships, having a good working relationship where we build trust and we understand what each other's roles are. And then on top of that, leveraging that brand that Chief Maxwell established several years ago.
I appreciate that. And trust is a critical component in this. And that's one thing that I really appreciate, because doing national research, unfortunately, in a lot of the academic articles that I've been reading, I've been noticing a trust disparity just between law enforcement and fire department, just because of the general nature of the roles. And so being able to bring and having these CHWs associated with the fire department, which is typically branded as the rescue and has a greater trust, I think really creates a significant impact in our opportunities to influence and help these individuals who are struggling gain the necessary resources required. With that, are there any other conversations with any other local PDs like Edmonds, Mill Creek, about potentially expanding this?
In an informal way, yes, there is. So the CRP captains, former Captain Picknell, who's now been promoted to MSO, and current Captain Sharp have had discussions with Edmonds PD at I believe with their social workers. You might know this. So with the social workers there with Edmonds PD, and we do have a relationship. They have a relationship. I don't have the relationship. They have a relationship with Mill Creek Police as well. Commissioner Walkelman, you brought up a couple words I wrote down here: impact and influence. And oftentimes we find, or we'll hear that maybe that we have a bit of mission creep because we are a fire department. We're branded as rescue. But the reality is our missions are blended, and the folks that we see on a daily basis that utilize the 911 system, law enforcement sees them, we see them, we see the same patient or the same clients at the same time. So we have the ability to help each other, which is, it's a really wonderful dynamic.
Liaison Morris.
I'm not too adept with the CRP program, but I haven't met a law enforcement officer who is not a fan of it because of how much it helps us. My question for you would be, would a CRP be considered a behavioral health personnel and considered co-response with law enforcement?
Co-response, yes, but not necessarily a certification in behavioral health per se. They have training, certain trainings, but when it comes to a certification or a licensure, that's something that they do not have.
Okay. My thought process of this is there was $100 million grant that is good through 2028. That was specific to law enforcement, but it also takes into effect behavioral health. I don't think a penny of that's been spent in the first year. And however we can make the CRP program expand with working in law enforcement for that to fit that statute would be, although it's housed in the fire department, if it had to be under some of our local police departments that we work with, I think would provide such a large benefit to the community. And if it's just that money's just sitting there and no one's using it, to me, we should be attacking that.
Well, that is certainly intriguing to hear. And based on the direction that the fire chief and the incoming chief want to go and where the board wants to go, we can certainly work with Edmonds PD and take a peek at that opportunity.
Other questions? Commissioner Walker?
That is something I would like to explore further.
Okay, well, I think we are probably ready for a motion then. So I will move that we adopt the interlocal agreement for embedded community health worker services between South Snohomish County, Snohomish, South County Fire and the City of Linwood Police Department. And there's a second. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the ILA. Is there discussion on the motion? Is there discussion on the motion? If not, move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say there was a recent national article, an outcry that fire departments across the nation are not doing enough in this work. And so I'm just extremely grateful and proud of this board and the support you guys have for these programs. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving forward on the agenda then to item 10C, which is the 2026 final. Yes.
We're running out of time here. Could we skip to 10E? Because, you know.
Well,
we got a lot.
we've got a number of items and we have an extensive executive session.
Yeah, exactly.
So my recommendation is going to be that we extend the time on our 10 o'clock cutoff, and we can get through the rest of the items here, maybe cancel the committee updates. We can get through the items here, but the executive sessions.
Well, if people restrain from their questions, hopefully.
We take it as it comes. So let's turn to 10C, which is the 2026 final benefit charge calculation formulary for action with Chief Eastman.
Again, good evening, Commissioners. So as you know, when we do the benefit charge, when we adopt the budget and do the work in November, they're preliminary numbers. And we need to take the certified assessor rolls for 2026. We did that. There's a little bit of adjustment happens because additional properties come on the tax roll. It does require us to go do a little bit of tweaking of the factors that go into the benefit charge. This is a housekeeping thing. I'm showing you, this is the formulary that was actually used as we submitted the information to the county. I think we submitted the data to the county on the 9th. There was some additional tweaking that needed to be done on the 12th. And I just, if we could just get the board to acknowledge and approve this, then we'll attach this to the resolution from November that set the rate for the benefit charge for 2026.
Are there general questions from the board members on the fire benefit charge formula 2026?
Just what was the tweak?
So because the square footage changes, there was minor changes to the residential cost factor, the mobile home cost factor, the multifamily cost factor, the cost per gallon, because there's more square footage, and then slight tweaks to the commercial. So they were very minor, but it was set to adjust the square footage in each one of those property categories.
Any other general questions on the formula? If not, I'll move that we adopt I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Rowland, I didn't see. Go ahead.
You didn't, Chief, I don't think you really answered the question there. So he asked what effective changes were. You just said there were minor changes to square footage. What is the effective changes for each of those categories that were changed? Is the rates going up, down? What's the impact?
Commissioner Rowland, I don't know if I can go tell you specifically in each one of those what the changes were. I can tell you they were very, very minuscule changes because there wasn't that much square footage added. And I guess I want to say that the original residential properties, as a result of the adjustment, went down. I can't remember how much, but they were very, very slight changes with the additional square footage in each one of the property classes. I don't have the specifics off the top of my head.
Additional square footage, and one of those you named was mobile homes?
So mobile homes, so square footage changes with the county assessor's roll. So I had an increase in residential square footage. I had a decrease in mobile home square footage. If I remember correctly, we had an increase in multifamily square footage. And then we had a general overall increase in square footage for commercial property. I can't go and tell you in which category that square footage was. And as a result of that, it has an impact on the cost factor. That gets adjusted, and then we go make sure that the cost factors for each one of those other property classes adjust to make sure that we're collecting the appropriate proportion of the benefit charge from those property classes. And the changes were very, very minor fine-tuning changes.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we are ready for a motion. I will move the adoption of the fire benefit, the benefit charge formula for 2026. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fernhoff. So moved and seconded to adopt the 2026 benefit charge formula. Is there discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That moves us forward in the agenda then to item 10D, sorry, which is a request by Commissioner Wankelman to attend the Atrium Mobile Integrated Health and Community Paramedicine Conference. I believe that's in Chicago. And let me turn it over to Commissioner Wankelman just for very briefly explain what you're interested in. And this, and just for explanation, out-of-state travel requires board approval. That's why it's here, but just a few words about it.
Absolutely. I appreciate this. As we've seen tonight, how many times has the CRP program been acknowledged through legislation, through their impact in the community? And this is going to be a atrium of professionals from around the nation coming together and having a conference on best practices, challenges, which is critical for the RFA, especially as we start to see a greater impact with our CRP. And so we do have Chief Hughes and Captain Sharp going, but I think this is also time to start having a commissioner attend as well, because this is turning into a legislative conversation. As Chief Eastman mentioned earlier, with the different challenges that they're facing. And so being able to be educated, being able to have these conversations, being able to really talk to the professionals that are integrating, the hospitals that are integrating the different technologies, EMS, fire services in this national conference, I think would greatly benefit our conversation as we move forward into future conversations, especially with a couple of the hopefully board priorities for this year.
I move that the board approve Commissioner Wankelman to attend the Atrium Health Mobile Integrated Health and Community Paramedicine Conference in April in Chicago.
I second that.
Second by Commissioner Chan. It's been moved and seconded to approve the attendance at that conference. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Chan, then Commissioner Wankelman. Commissioner Chan.
I think we have been long. I talked to Chief Maxwell a long time ago. We have the emergency room, all that, the whole surface. We need to clean up the cycle, to make it works. And also this RCPR program is good. I always know that the call we never make or that type of thing. So I did have I look at your when you do the campaign thing, I think you really have done a pretty good job on that research and everything else. I know that you're pretty connected with other people. I hope a good conference and come back share with us. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? We'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, that moves us forward in the item, forward to item 10E, which is the resolution commending Chief Eastman for his years of service as he is anticipating coming to retirement. I'll move the adoption and then I'll read it. I'll move the adoption of resolution 01202026-02, resolution commending Robert Eastman, Fire Chief, for his service to South Snohomish County Fire and Rescue Regional Fire Authority. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fernhoff. It's been moved and seconded to adopt that resolution. Let me read the resolution into the record, then we'll take any comments from commissioners. Whereas Fire Chief Robert Eastman has spent 30 years faithfully and steadfastly serving the people of South Snohomish County. And whereas Chief Eastman was hired as a firefighter paramedic at Fire District 1, Fire District 11 in April of 1996. Chief Eastman was promoted to Captain Paramedic at Fire District 1 in 2001, and then was promoted to MSO Hazmat Technician. In 2014, Chief Eastman was promoted to Assistant Chief, and in 2017, when Fire District 1 became South Snohomish County Fire and Rescue Regional Fire Authority, South County Fire, Chief Eastman became Deputy Chief of Special Projects. In 2023, Chief Eastman was promoted to Assistant Chief of Operations, and then in 2024, promoted to Fire Chief. And whereas Chief Eastman helped draft the Regional Fire Authority, RFA, plan approved by voters in 2017 to establish South County Fire, and whereas Chief Eastman played a key role in the growth of the RFA through successful annexations of the cities of Mill Creek, 2022, Briar, 2023, Malik Terrace, 2023, and Edmonds, 2024. And whereas Chief Eastman also played a key role in securing sustainable funding for emergency services in the Regional Fire Authority through a benefit charge overwhelmingly approved by voters in 2020. And whereas Chief Eastman was instrumental in the updated redeployment efforts, which led to uncrossed staffing within the RFA. And whereas Chief Eastman led the RFA to produce a comprehensive organizational roadmap to address opportunities in operations, staffing, finances, and communications. And whereas Chief Eastman established the Fire Prevention Division as a core function of the RFA, and whereas Chief Eastman, for more than a decade, played a key role in strategic work to determine the most important emergency response facilities needed, which led to the unanimous vote by the South County Fire Board of Commissioners to move forward on a potential capital facilities bond measure in 2026. And whereas Chief Eastman was instrumental in the successful negotiation of a 3-year collective bargaining agreement with Local 1828 in 2026, and whereas Chief Eastman leaves a legacy and culture of supportiveness and excellence at all levels within the Regional Fire Authority, and now therefore be it resolved, the South County Fire Board of Commissioners commends Chief Eastman for his distinguished years of dedicated service, the leadership of South County Fire employees, and adhering to the highest standards in meeting the public safety needs of the citizens of Snohomish County. We wish you well in retirement. Of course, we haven't voted yet. And I want to see if there were comments from the commissioners, any discussion on the motion to approve the resolution. Commissioner Fernhoff.
I just wanted to say, I think that list is very short. Thank you, Chief.
Other Commissioner Wackelman.
Chief, thank you for all of your service. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your selfless service to the community. And it's truly appreciated and it's felt throughout. And we're just so grateful for you.
Other commissioner comments?
Did you write that? Did you write the whole thing? So that means you cannot retire. You have to continue. Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Commissioner Wittes.
You'll hear more next week.
So this this is a little bit anticlimactic, but this is the last board meeting for Chief Eastman, so we didn't want to go without an opportunity. And it's our last opportunity actually as a board to pass this before Chief Eastman retires. And so just due to the timing of it, and the meeting next week won't be a board meeting. Sorry, not the meeting, the ceremony. So this is our last opportunity to pass it as a board. We'll sign off on it, and then the hard copy, we'll have it in a frame for Chief, and we'll hand it to him at the ceremony. So this is kind of two parts, a part one, and then there's the part two, which is the more pomp and circumstance, shall we say, for next Tuesday. But as our last board meeting. So I did want to thank Chief Eastman for his many years of service. Chief Eastman and I have worked together for a very long time, and Chief Eastman has a special skills in data analysis and taxation, property values, a lot of the difficult kind of forecasting issues, forecasting around those types of issues that are really helpful at the board level to think into the future about what makes sense in terms of the services that we provide, the possible consolidations or regionalizations that we've gone through, what makes sense kind of from the nuts and bolts financial or maybe even operational levels, and then layering in some of the cultural issues that come along with those, which can change from time to time. But in some ways, the dollars and cents of it, the AV, the properties, those don't change as much, but are due to the nature of our local taxation are complex and hard to get at. The fire benefit charge and sorting out the formula and what's going to make sense and how does that, what's the AV equivalent of the formula, because nobody can talk about fire benefit charge. They want to talk about property tax AV. So just the translation of that, both to the board and to the public, has been really powerful over time. So we're really going to miss your skills and leadership in that area. That's been really helpful to the board over the years, and it really is almost irreplaceable. We'll piece together ways to make it happen, but some very specialized skills that have been super helpful in this time of regionalization over the last 20 years for the board. So I just appreciate your good work, and you never missed an opportunity to make a comment. I could always count on a long conversation from Chief Eastman about whatever the issue was that we had going on. So it was, I appreciate the loquaciousness, if that's the right word. So I appreciate all of your thoughts over time, and we'll miss your service at South County Fire. Any other comments on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. And we'll have more to say next week at the formal ceremony. So this is just the start, the formal start, I guess. All right. So that was 10E. My suggestion is we skip committee updates. So we'll skip those without objection. Commissioner comments, any very, very brief commissioner comments? Snow Isle dinner banquet on Saturday night, remember? Okay, so then we're on to executive session, which is going to be pretty extensive. So first, I think we need a motion to extend the deadline of the meeting to accommodate the executive session. So I'm going to move that we extend the meeting as necessary to handle the executive session.
Second.
So moved and seconded to do that. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Point of order, real quick.
Yes, Commissioner Roll.
You didn't call for abstentions on the last one, and I would like to verbally abstain from the last vote. Thank you.
The last vote on the resolution for.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So that we'll correct the record on that is a 6-0-1 vote with Commissioner Rowland abstaining. All right. So we are back to the motion on extending the deadline for the meeting. Any other discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, so we've got two items of executive session.
Nay.
Yes.
Just wanted to reflect that.
Okay, Commissioner Rowland, what was your vote on the extension?
Nay.
Nay, okay. So that vote passed on a 6-1 vote, Commissioner Rowland voting no. So we've got our executive session up next. Chief, I'm going to say a half hour. We'll start with a half hour.
I would start there.
So we're going to start with a half hour, 10 to 10:30. We have 2 items, collective bargaining pursuant to RCW 4230 144A and potential litigation. And unfortunately, I don't have that RCW at my fingertips, but it's in 4230. And we do have attorneys attending both of those portions. And Chief, we may take action.
I would say keep that option open,
We may
please.
take action at the conclusion of executive session. So we'll be in a brief recess back to executive session. We may take action, 30 minutes, 10 to 10:30, and we'll be in a brief recess. Thank you.
Now, next.
Yeah, you just.
Yeah.
Let me just ask.